So let's proceed to the mass media and Philippine politics. So mass media plays a crucial role in the democratization of Philippine politics. So mass media have been a pivotal force in the democratization of Philippine politics, particularly in the post-martial law era. It has served as a vehicle for informing and engaging the public, thereby strengthening the democratic processes in the country. For instance, during the People Power Revolution in 1986, mass media, especially radio and television, really played a significant role in mobilizing the masses. The mass media in Philippine politics freed from political control since the ouster of the dictatorship. The mass media gained significant influence. So after the ouster of the dictatorship in the Philippines, the mass media experienced a significant transformation and gained substantial influence in shaping the country's politics, especially in the context of parties, elections, and democratization. During the martial law era, media outlets were heavily controlled and censored by the authoritarian government, limiting their ability to provide unbiased information and critique the ruling regime. However, with the return to democracy, media outlets such as newspaper, television stations, and radio broadcaster, it became essential platforms for the dissemination of information and political debates. They played a crucial role in educating the public about various political parties, their platforms, and candidates during elections, thereby facilitating the democratization process. So for instance, during the 1986 People Power Revolution, the radio and other media outlets, they played a pivotal role in mobilizing the masses and calling for the removal of the authoritarian regime. So the post-martial law period saw the emergence of more independent and investigative journalism, leading to a healthier political discourse and greater transparency in the electoral process. So this shift in media dynamics played a vital role in the Philippines' journey toward democratization. So media has become a key means of interest articulation and information, often replacing parties and politicians in this role. So in the context of post-martial law Philippines, mass media played a pivotal role in shaping the political landscape. So during this period, media outlets such as newspaper, television, and radio station become a crucial avenues for interest, articulation, and information dissemination. So they often replace traditional political parties and politicians in their ability to influence public opinions and rally support. For example, the 1986 People Power Revolution, which led to the overthrow of President Ferdinand Marcos, was greatly facilitated by media coverage and communication. Radio stations like Radio Veritas and television broadcast provided a platform for rallying people against the authoritarian regime. Additionally, newspaper like the Philippine Daily Inquirer played a critical role in exposing government corruption and human rights abuses, galvanizing public sentiment against the regime. So in this way, mass media not only informed the public but also served as a powerful force in driving democratization and political change in the post-martial law era in the Philippines. So these are the political parties. First is Lakas, second is the LAMMP, third is the LDP, followed by the NPC and the Liberal Party. So let's try to give some information about each of these political parties. So Lakas. So the Lakas or NUCD was a prominent political party in the Philippines that played a significant role in the country's political landscape. It was founded in 1991 as a result of a merger between two political organizations, Lakas and the National Union of Christian Democrats, or the NUCD. It quickly became a dominant force in the Philippine politics. So the party espoused conservative and centrist principles, focusing on economic stability and development. During its heyday, Lakas produced several influential politicians, including former President Fidel V. Ramos, who served from 1992 to 1998. So Lakas held a reputation for its ability to form powerful coalitions, making it a force to be reckoned with during elections. So the party's strength was rooted in its wide network of political figures at various levels of government, which allowed it to maintain a significant presence in both local and national politics. Throughout its existence, Lakas faced various internal challenges and underwent multiple transformations, adapting to the ever-changing political climate of the Philippines. So the LAMMP, or the Laban ng Makabayang Masang Pilipino, or commonly known as LAMMP, is a political organization in the Philippines that emerged with the aim of championing the interests of the Filipino masses and promoting nationalist and populist ideals. It was founded in the late 20th century. LAMMP has historically focused on advocating for social justice, economic equity, and people-centric policies. It has gained support through grassroots mobilization, appealing to those who seek an alternative to traditional political elites. LAMMP's platform often centers on addressing issues such as poverty, land reform, and anti-corruption measures. So the organization's leaders and members have been involved in various political campaigns and at times have held positions in government. LAMMP's influence has fluctuated over the years, reflecting the ever-evolving political landscape in the Philippines, but it remains a notable force in Filipino politics, resonating with those who desire a more inclusive and nationalist approach to governance. So the LAMMP party, it adopts the Flames program, including food security, livelihood, anti-corruption, mass transportation, educational and health reform, and public order. So it also shares some achievements with Lakas on this issue. So let's proceed to the LDP, or Laban ng Demokratikong Pilipino. So the Laban ng Demokratikong Pilipino, commonly referred to as the LDP, is a prominent political party in the Philippines. It emerged in the early 1980s, particularly in response to the authoritarian rule of Ferdinand Marcos during the martial law period. So the LDP was formed as a coalition of various oppositions groups advocating for democratic principles, human rights, and political reform. Prominent figures like Benigno Ninoy Aquino Jr. played pivotal role in the party's formation and success. So the LDP played a significant role in the democratization of the Philippines, particularly during the 1986, which is the People Power Revolution, which led to the downfall of the Marcos regime and the restoration of democracy. So the LDP and NPC parties, prior to dissolution and absorption into LAMMP and LDP, sought national political stability, self-reliant economy, and social progress. So it calls for the development of national philosophy and adherence to the rule of law. But not the least is the Liberal Party. So the Liberal Party, often abbreviated as LP, it has a long and storied history in Philippine politics. It has been a key player in the country's political and landscape, both before and after martial law. So the party was associated with the principles of liberal democracy and social reform, and it played a pivotal role in the People Power Revolution of 1986, which led to the ousting of Ferdinand Marcos. Key figures within the party, such as Benigno Ninoy Aquino Jr. and Corazon Aquino, it became symbols of the struggles for democracy in the Philippines. So the Liberal Party has remained active and influential in the post-martial law era, advocating for democratic governance, human rights, and social justice. So these political parties played significant roles in shaping the Philippines' political landscape during the post-martial law period, contributing to the country's democratization and the restoration of democratic governance. Let us proceed to the party policy, ideologies, platform, and views. So, all three main parties in the Philippines subscribe to liberal principles, including free enterprise, limited government, and civil rights. So, In the context of post-martial law Philippines, all three main political parties subscribe to liberal principles which encompass free enterprise, um, limited government intervention, and the protection of civil rights. So this alignment with liberal principle can be seen in the ideological platforms and policies of these parties. For example, the Laban ng Demokratikong Pilipino, or the LDP, what was founded by Benigno Aquino Jr., emphasized the importance of a market-oriented economy and the protection of individual liberties, echoing liberal values of free enterprise and civil rights. So the Nacionalista Party, led by politicians like Ferdinand Marcos, also embraced elements of economic liberalism, favoring policies that promoted economic growth through limited government intervention. Additionally, the Liberal Party, under the leadership of Corazon Aquino, championed civil rights and democracy, advocating for the restoration of democratic institutions and the protection of individual freedoms. In this post-martial law era, these parties reflected a common commitment to liberal principles as they navigated the Philippines' path towards democratization and political reform. So, second is professional and material interests of party elites have grown during the post-1986 democratic regime. So, the professional and material interest of party elites and the post-1986 democratic regime of the Philippines have significantly influenced party standpoints. With the return of democracy after the martial law period, party elites sought to secure their positions and accumulate wealth. For example, the emergence of political dynasties, where influential families dominate the political landscapes, so reflects the pursuit of material interest. These elites often control resources, including land and businesses, which can be leveraged to fund and support their political parties. Additionally, party elites may align themselves with specific economic sectors or interest groups to further their sectors or interest groups. Additionally, party elites may align themselves with specific economic sectors or interest groups to further their professional interests. For instance, politicians with ties to the business sector might advocate for policies that benefit their corporate allies, shaping the party's economic stance. So these intertwining of professional and material interests can lead to party standpoints that prioritize the elite's well-being over broader democratic goals, potentially hindering the democratization process in the Philippines. Mainstream policy positions are prioritized, while alternative programs are seldom articulated, and parties work together for structural reforms to strengthen democratic foundation. So in the context of post-martial law Philippines, the drawbacks of prioritizing mainstream policy positions while neglecting alternative programs within political parties can be quite significant. For instance, during this period, political parties often revolve around well-established figures and their preferred policies, sidelining potential fresh ideas. One example is the dominance of the Nacionalista and Liberal parties, which had historical ties to martial law era politics. So these parties focus on maintaining a status quo that may not have fully embraced the democratic ideals sought after the martial law period. So meanwhile, smaller issue-based parties with innovative approaches and alternative viewpoints struggled to gain traction. This situation limited the diversity of policy options available to voters and hindered the broader democratization of the political landscape. So in effect, it reinforced the grip of established elites on the political sphere and made it difficult for alternative voices to be heard or for novel policies to gain prominence. So there is a consensus among political elites on these basic policy issues, and elections are the primary way to resolve differences. So also there is a broad acceptance of economic growth and the role of the private sector in the economy. And so the globalization is recognized as an essential aspect of the economy. So when it comes to the LDP, in terms of the LDP and NPC parties, so prior to dissolution and absorption into LAMMP, LDP sought national political stability, self-reliant economy, and social progress. So it calls for the development of a national philosophy and adherence to the rule of law. The NPC emphasizes rekindling Filipino patriotism, individual freedom, and protection of private property. Rekindling. So the LP, or the Liberal Party, it has a more detailed program compared to other parties, since it expresses opposition to nuclear weapons, reduction of foreign debt, and land reform. It also supports a free market economy and downplays protectionism. So in terms of economic and demographic changes, so the old oligarchies' influence eroded due to changes in the economic structure, and the traditional export crops declined while new sectors like garments and electronics grew. Also, the urban population increased while the rural population decreased. So the expansion of overseas Filipino workers, or the OFWs, and urban lower middle class has occurred, and also the globalization, information technology, and international communication network have influenced growth and governance models. Let us proceed to the conclusion of this report. So, first is the political parties. So political parties in the Philippines have a limited influence on policy making. So they are often formed to support the president or presidential ambitions of their founders and have weak organizational structures. So their support base is typically drawn from political elites. So policy consensus, despite their limitations, many parties in the Philippines share a similar policy consensus, particularly on issues like liberalization, market economy, and democracy. So this consensus has been valuable in promoting growth and resolving conflicts within the government. We also have here the Growth Coalition. So parties have formed a growth coalition working together to promote economic growth and implement structural reforms. So this coalition has helped reduce economic disparities and improve growth prospects in various sectors. There is also factors enabling growth. So there are several factors that have enabled this growth coalition, including weaker ties and with traditional oligarchies, improved state capacity for reforms such as, changes in the political economy, and the expansion of the middle class. So in the institutional context, the text emphasizes the need for electoral reforms and improve institutional frameworks to strengthen political parties and the party system. Public financing of parties is suggested to reduce their dependence on patrons and financiers. So sustainability of growth and democratization. Also, it concludes by expressing optimism about the Philippines' ability to sustain political vibrancy and economic growth even in the face of challenges such as the 1997 financial crisis. So it highlights the country's successful transition to democracy and its potential for continued progress. So to sum up, so the Philippines has experienced a complex political landscape where political parties, despite their limitations, have played a role in shaping policies and promoting economic growth. So it underscores the importance of continued efforts to strengthen the party system and maintain the positive trajectory of democratization and economic development. So that's the end of our reporting, and I hope that you've learned something. Thank you.